From Rick and Elsa to Jack and Rose, the history of film is littered with memorable romantic couples and hundreds of iconic kisses. But over a century before Spider-Man kissed Mary Jane upside down in the rain, theatrical comedians May Irwin and John C. Reis created the first memorable on-screen smooch in 1986's short film, The Kiss. Besides staking its claim as cinema's first great kiss, the film has been hailed by many as the first subject of screen censorship in cinema history. It sure is a good story. A bunch of prudish Victorians caught in a morally righteous uproar over a totally innocuous on-screen kiss lasting less than a minute. Depending on who is recounting the tale, this scandalous film mobilized religious groups from local Protestant congregations to the Roman Catholic Church to call for censorship and police action in stopping such a shocking and obscene public display of romantic affection. But what if I told you the supposed scandal is completely false? There might have been a pearl clutcher or two writing a strongly worded letter to the editor, but there was in fact no widespread calls for censorship in the kiss's wake. To understand just how this myth started and what the contemporary 19th century reaction actually was like, it's important to understand just how new of an invention film was when The Kiss first hit screens in the spring of 1896. It was only a few months earlier that cinema moved from the small peep show devices to the projected screen that would soon explode into the most popular entertainment of the 21st century. Movies lasted for only a minute and typically were strung together in short programs with 10 or a dozen short films on a single bill. People first saw projected movies as attractions at fairgrounds, with educational lectures at community centers, or during a brief section of a vaudeville or theatrical performance that gave the performers a break from their routines. It was in this climate that The Kiss first screened in early 1896 as part of Edison's projected Vitascope program. At Edison's primitive studio, the Black Maria, May Irwin and John C. Reis reenacted a scene from their new, highly successful musical Broadway comedy, The Widow Jones. The film became a smash hit in its own right, landing on a bevy of moving picture programs across the United States with amused audiences. Since the nascent industry was still years away from national motion picture magazines or aggravated review sites, it was rather difficult for contemporary art critics to find the reaction to The Kiss beyond their own city or town. Today, even with easily accessible digitized copies of many written sources of the time, it takes an extensive amount of research and work to compile all the contemporary reactions of The Kiss. Luckily for us, Fritzi Kramer, the wonderful creator of MoviesSilently.com, did just that. She found in her research that about 90% of the mentions I unearthed from The Kiss's initial release were simply announcements of The Kiss being included in a picture show program or a recap of those programs after the fact. Most references to the film were positive. The picture was often described as the highlight of various programs, bringing down the house and receiving rapturous applause. But of those that were not, the majority took exception to the quality of The Kiss or the fact that Irwin was not a conventionally attractive actress, not the act of kissing on screen in general. If contemporary reviews of the film didn't mention any calls for censorship, where did this false narrative come from? The major source of this myth is Terry Ramsay's trailblazing but often wildly inaccurate A Million and One Nights, a 1926 history of the motion pictures. When discussing the supposed outrage around the film, Ramsay uses only one citation, a magazine who he even notes had a small circulation, called The Chapbook. Some highlights from this particular chapbook article include, "I want to smash the Vitascope. Its managers bravely set out to eclipse in vulgarity any previous theatrical attempts. Neither participant is physically attractive, and the spectacle of their prolonged pasturing on each other's lips was hard to bear. Magnified to gargantuan proportions and repeated 3 times over, it is absolutely disgusting. The performance comes very close to being indecent in its emphasized vulgarity. Such things call for police interference. Our cities from time to time have spasms of morality when they arrest people for displaying lithographs of ballet girls. Yet, they permit night after night a performance which is infinitely more degrading." Even just reading these small snippets, the exaggerated, humorous nature of the article is clear. Smashing Vitascopes and calling for police interference is meant to be an over-the-top reaction. The author is calling out the ridiculousness of the current draconian censorship of women showing off their stockings in stage and print media by tongue-in-cheek advocating for such a drastic measure against the new medium of moving pictures. The flickers are just a passing amusement for the uneducated masses. Why on earth treat them so seriously? Ramsay misreading one satirical article in an obscure magazine is like when authors today take a small handful of tweets and write a BuzzFeed article acting like these online reactions represent the large portion of public opinion. It's just bad writing, and even worse history that has been left unchecked for far too long. The Kiss, instead of inciting calls for censorship, was a staple of early moving picture programs for years. As late as 1900, Edison himself continued selling copies of the film, listing it in his monthly catalog for sale. The film also spurred numerous imitators in the following years with different variations, from featuring an African-American couple to setting a few pecs inside a train car going through a tunnel. Edison himself even remade the kiss in 1900 with two younger performers, describing in his advertising catalog to exhibitors the film as nothing new, but an old thing done over again and done well. So next time you see a budding on-screen romance culminate in a touching kiss, thank your Victorian ancestors for 1, making the first screen kiss, and 2, not getting their panties in a bunch and letting such an intimate, affectionate display make cinema history. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button, or, write an angry letter to the editor if you were offended by all that salacious kissing.